back to episode 160 of Tall Boy Radio. And today we are recording this on Super Bowl Sunday. So there's only one thing that we could possibly talk about. That's right, film remakes. And if they ever remade the story of Tall Boy Radio, there's only one man that would be fit to fill this next guy's shoes, James Boyd. Gaza, can I get a
Evening, chaps, evening, the world. Looking forward to this. I won't spoil your intro, but I love having guests on the podcast. So yeah, no doubt our conversation will turn to the Super Bowl at some point. But yeah, we'll see where we go with this one. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. And like I said, yeah, we have a guest again. So this week, there's no Dave, unfortunately, and still no Andy, but we are joined by Bo all the way from Texas. How are you doing? How's Super Bowl Sunday over there for you?
Well, it's great so far. Of course, the game starts at 5:30. I actually have a place to go, so I'm going to miss half of it. So it's going to. Hopefully, I'll be back by halftime, but it really doesn't matter because Dallas isn't in anyways. So yeah, doing well.
Yeah, that's
Good man.
Yeah, I think the Bears and the Steelers, as our teams, we lost a little bit of interest during the regular season there when it came to the end, and it came pretty clear that we weren't going to be making the playoffs.
No, you say that, dude. But the interest in the Bears was actually, can we be so bad that we get the first pick in the draft? That was the intrigue. And actually, by all accounts, I think we're going to give it up, aren't we? We're going to sort of trade down and try and get like a bucket full of players. I think by all accounts. So we might talk. Is it quarterback? Did I read somewhere that there's someone? There was a QB that's tipped to go out really high, and I can't for life me think who it was that wanted him. Was it the Colts? Maybe they were going to trade away at some point. I think, can't remember, but yeah.
Well, there's 4 quarterbacks tipped to go in the first pick, his first picks, but we're not here to talk about that just yet.
No, we're not. No.
No, well, let's not get too carried away. So let's do now. We did an episode called Room 101. We did a second episode of that not so long back, and I put remakes into Room 101 because I'm not a fan of them. But it did sort of spawn a conversation about one particular remake, and it does then bring into question perhaps whether we should have put it into Room 101 at all. So should we start off with that film in particular then, Gaza? What was the film that you said, actually, the remake is possibly better than the original?
If it was the one that we were talking about, whenever it was that we met, was it earlier on in the week? Cape Fear is a film that I genuinely think is better than the original, and I know it has a couple of the original cast members in the remake, but De Niro in that film is creepy as hell, man. He's like quite, well, not quite. He's very sinister. He plays, he's just. I just think that you look at the direction and you look at obviously the sort of cinematography and all that's moved on from the original and stuff, but I just think De Niro gives a masterful performance in that film. I think he's genius in that film. So I would have said that's definitely better than the original. But that's the one that spawned probably the idea for this podcast.
You fan of that film, Bo? You're a big fan of the remake of Cape Fear with De Niro.
Yes. So yeah, I think that was a great movie. My problem is I never saw the 1962 version, so I don't have a dog in a fight, as far as that goes. But yeah, the 1991 version with De Niro was amazing. It was. I could still watch it today, no problem.
Yeah, it is a good film. Like you say, so the original was done in 62, and films back then tended to be a little bit slower paced. You know what I mean? So nowadays we want something that's a little bit faster moving. We want to get there a little bit quicker than they did back in 62. But I will say this: for me, I have seen the 62 original. And my issue with the 91 version of it, which I totally agree, is a very, very good film. And De Niro plays Max Cady in that. Like you say, it's an uncomfortable performance because he just seems like an all-out bad guy and a really, really unpleasant individual. But a lot of those scenes are almost shot for shot taken from Cape Fear in 62. So it's almost like it's sort of aping it. The quality's there. Don't get me wrong. Some of the performances are fantastic, but the bits that we really love about it, the cinematography, is lifted straight from that original version. Or so just out of interest, then, okay. So, well, obviously, you've done a little bit of research. You knew the dates of the films, which is good. Did you, by happen, have a look on IMDb and see how those films are rated on there?
I did not. I got some up right now that I was looking at, but I did not do that. But to caveat what you were just saying about the cinematography, if something's done right in '62, why would you change it in '91? It was if it was done in a certain way, and it made the film, really good. Why don't you just do it with better cameras and better, cinematography and everything in '91? I mean, it's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. My kind of feeling is, if they did it right in '62, was there any real need to do it again in 1991? Could we not just really enjoy that film for what it is? Like you say, Cape Fear now is 30 plus years old, and we can all enjoy it. We can all enjoy that film. It doesn't need to be remade again for a new audience. The '62 version, I don't think, needed remaking, and that is my beef with remakes in general. But if you have a look at IMDb right now and you have a look how those films are rated, so the '62 version is rated 7.3. So yeah, good rating on IMDb. It's the sort of thing, if you try to choose a film, you go off that. How do you suppose the other version rates in comparison with it? Would you say higher or lower?
I'd probably say fractionally higher.
So
I'd probably say
you think the '91 film will be rated better? You must know where I'm going with this, dude. By now,
I know, I know where you're going. I can see where you go with it. What? So the '91, what would that be, about 6.8, something like that? 6 points.
Yeah, I've just realised I read the figures backwards, as I tend to do. So yeah, the '91 version is rated at 7.3. Sorry,
Okay.
the '62 version is 7.7. So it's ranked
Okay.
slightly. So it's ranked slightly higher by the thousands and thousands and thousands of people who've seen that film.
Yeah.
So
And I get it. I get it. You'll get people. I don't know. You'll get people on IMDb, whether or not they're not comparing like for like, or they're on IMDb. They're sort of watching one film and rating it, and they're watching another film and rating it. They're not looking at both of them and sort of trading them off against each other, I suppose. But I get it. Look, the original. I've seen the original. I mean, obviously, I've seen the remake, and they are both phenomenal films.
yeah, they are. Yeah, they are.
But just my personal preference was that the remake is a better one.
So why do you think then, either of you, films are remade? What's the thinking behind it? That's what I struggle with.
I just think Hollywood run out of ideas. I think I think what happens is there's only so many script writers, there's only so many crime capers, there's only so many of this, so many of that. So I think that they're always delving into sort of the history books just to sort of say, well, actually, that was pretty good. Can we do it? I don't think they do it just off the bat. I don't think they just pick a film and go, we're just going to remake it. I generally think they pick a film. I think it was a fantastic film first time round. We think we can improve on it and do it better. Therefore, we will. But yeah, I just think there's so many good historical films that you think, actually, yeah, why not give it a go?
Interesting. So
Yeah.
So go on then, Bo. You said you pulled up a list there. Have you got any films that have been remade that you think, actually, to be fair, they did a better job in the remake than they did in the original?
Yeah. So with this, I had to go off films that I had, of course, seen, right? So both of them, because I can't just go off, something that I only watched the remake. This is probably going to be an unpopular choice. And I'm going off it strictly off of, I've seen both movies, and I think some people will not agree with me because they just don't believe some movies should be remade. They believe the original is the original and don't mess with it, right? So, but my first one on my list, dun dun, Amityville Horror, 1979 and 2005, right? So I'm not saying the 2005 version is better, but I think it is as good as the 1979 version. And I could watch both of them endlessly. So that's my first one on my list. I had to do some soul searching on that one, but I really loved the 2005 version of it. I really did. So that was my first choice. What about you?
Well, it's interesting that, because if you have a look, and as I always do, I always pull up other people's opinions on this. And the Amityville Horror, sorry, that makes most people's lists of films that are better than the original. Now, see, I grew up watching those films, and I probably told this story numerous times on the podcast, but guess what? I'm going to tell it again. My nan would send us to the video store with a letter, me and my brother, when we were like 12 and 9 or something, saying, please let my grandsons rent 18 certificate videos. Honestly, I'm okay with them watching it. Back then, nobody really cared about film classification, and they let us have them. So I grew up watching those films. So those sort of films are, that's in my bloodline. That's why I love horror movies so much, because I loved them as a kid. I never really grew up. Surprise, surprise. So the original is an absolute gem, and it's one of those ones that I think it affects you. The remake, I'm trying to remember who's in it now. I've got a funny feeling Melissa George was in it, who was Angel in Home and Away, unless I'm mistaken. Gaz, you are on mute as you're trying to speak there. But yeah.
Yeah, it was Melissa George, sorry, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was. But don't get me wrong, that makes it a little bit easier on the eye to watch. So yeah, I would say that is one of those films that is up there. Like Cape Fear, it's at that level, in terms of. So did you have a look at the IMDb ratings of those, dude? Did you see which ones are rated higher?
I actually didn't look at any of the ratings. I just went down. Yeah, so I honestly don't know if I would say that most people, if I had to choose, I would say most people would say that the 79 version was better, and it's because it's one of those movies that it was just done right the first time.
Yeah,
they just happened to get it right on the second time. But I think most people would be like, nope, the original version 79, don't mess with it. So if I had to choose, that's what I would say, that would be rated higher.
Yeah, and interesting enough, the house where the actual original murder took place, so it's a true film that's based loosely on a true event. That house comes up for sale every once in a blue moon, and it generates a hell of a lot of interest in there. But I think the current people have owned it for quite some time now. I think it must be 10, 20 years they've owned that place. And nobody ever tells any story of anything that happened there afterwards. So I guess that's quite reassuring, especially as your good lady's into real estate. How should you go about marketing that one? I don't know whether you'd market it as the house that was from the original. I don't know. What's your opinions on that one, Gaza?
A bit like you had. I remember watching the original, and I think I've seen the remake. It's not one other than when you mention Melissa George, and you think, oh, actually, yeah, was it that one? And I don't. If I'm honest, I don't remember a lot about the remake. I remember obviously the original, and a bit like you had, sort of when you were 12, 13, 14 or whatever. I remember watching it, and again feeling, I suppose it's a bit freaked out, I suppose, a bit, you're a bit like puts you on the back foot sort of thing a little bit. But I can't really compare them because I haven't. Well, if I have seen the remake, I don't remember it, so I would struggle to sort of to talk as to which one is best. But I definitely remember the original one, because I definitely remember seeing that probably a couple of times back in the day.
So if I told you then that the original was rated as 6.1 on IMDb, that's pretty low. That's exactly, it's a good film. Do you think the remake is rated better or worse?
It has to be a bit better than 6.1, doesn't it? Surely.
Yeah, you'd have thought so, wouldn't you?
But probably not by much.
Maybe even less, I would say. Like
really?
Better by a negative number. Yeah, 5.9, dude. That's all that's rated on there. I'm really surprised me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds was in that film as well. His stuff tends to be fairly popular.
Yeah. That surprises me that it's that low. As I say, if I have seen it, I don't hugely remember it. So I say I can't talk about which one is best as such. But yeah, I mean, fair shout though. The original is a belter.
Yeah. Did you want to chuck one out there then, Gaza? I know Cape Fear
Okay.
was your original call.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Cape Fear, but the one that I got was It. So based on the Stephen King book, and I thought the remake was vastly superior to the original. I think the original Tim Curry as Pennywise just didn't quite sort of cut it for me, and he was a bit sort of creepy and stuff. But I think from reading the book, it just didn't quite come across as it was. And I'm not saying it was miscast because Tim Curry's a decent actor, but it just didn't quite hit the spot in terms of having read the book and thinking that that's what I pictured the story to be. But then the remake came out and it was like a whole different ball game to me. I just felt as though it was more sinister, it was more creepy. It was there was no sort of comedic element to Pennywise as such. So I felt as though that would the update was much better.
How are you with clowns, Bo?
Oh, I'm fine with clowns.
Yeah, I just
I'm
wondered
good
because
with. Yeah.
Because it wasn't. It was strangely enough. Did I chuck them in room 101?
you did. Yeah, same episode. Gaz disclosed his dislike for clowns.
No. It's not a dislike for clowns. It was actually sort of in a way, what's the point of them? Because the original point of clowns was they're meant to be happy and cheerful and kids parties and all that. Whereas now, when you think clowns, you just think really freaky, horrible things with like great big sharp teeth that are going to come and devour you type thing. So I think the whole thing about clowns has just shifted, sort of thing. So that's why I binned them off. Having said that, the remake of it is significantly better than the original.
Have you seen either of those?
Yes, I've seen them both. And just a fun fact: one of my brother Jack's ex-girlfriend was a clown.
Oh,
She
wow.
Okay.
actually came to my school on my birthday and did balloons and all this kind of. So she was like a professional clown. So
Okay.
but yes, I saw both of them, and I'll agree 100% with Gaz. The first one was good. It was good. It was long. It was drawn out. I think, from what I remember, it's well over 2 hours long. The second one, the special effects, of course, have gotten greatly better. So they condensed it. It seemed like, and it was more fast moving than the original. There was a lot of dinners and sitting around and trying, on the original. So you're right. It was kind of slow, but the newer ones definitely had more fast moving, and I enjoyed them. I enjoyed the both of them.
So in terms of that, then, Gaza, I'll be honest with you. I've not seen the remake. Seen the original. Wasn't a big fan of it. I ain't got a problem with clowns. Really quite enjoyed Tim Curry's performance in it as Pennywise. I think it's quite peculiar. That's what I quite like about that movie. I've not seen the original, the remake. Sorry. Probably need to give that one a go. So which one of those do you reckon is rated higher on IMDb?
Oh, it's got to be the remake. It has to be the remake.
You're on the money this time, it is, yeah. So that's 7.1 to 6.8 for the original. Yeah. I'm going to chuck another one out there. It's a horror movie, okay? Another one, horror movies, because let's face it, they often get the remake treatment. And I think it's like you say, special effects, whether that be digital or, or the stuff that's done with makeup, etc., has come along so much in that time that people think that they can improve it by doing so. Personally, I like the original storytelling, and I don't mind the effects being pulled, but that's just me. So 1958, The Fly. You familiar with that movie?
I am familiar with it, but I don't remember seeing the 1958. I remember watching the, and I'm going to say something like 76, 77 remake, maybe something around then.
86, dude. 86.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Was it that late? Wow. Okay. Oh, years are out there. So The Fly with, don't tell me. Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, go on.
Jeff Goldblum. Yeah. Jeff Goldblum. Yeah. I thought it was earlier than that, dude.
No. So Jeff Goldblum, bringing the All-American football back into it, native of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So he's in that film. And I think, that is probably one of the creepier performances that you remember. I think he's a fantastic actor. Typecast a little bit nowadays in terms of the way he speaks and his hand gestures. You tend to get that kind of stuff out of him. And I can't do an impression, so I apologize, Jeff, because I am a big fan. But yeah, so nowadays we do it typecast, but that in his original role, very, very clever performer. And I think he does it really, really well. I have seen the black and white film it was made in '58. Dead honest, I turned it off. I thought it was absolutely terrible. Yeah, but this is where it goes to it, though, doesn't it? Because I hadn't seen that original first. So my first interaction with The Fly is Jeffrey Goldblum in it.
Yeah.
And again, now this is an interesting one because it's one of the few, much like it that you brought up there, which is rated higher on IMDb when it's been remade. So 7.1 for the original, which actually I thought was pretty generous. 7.6 for the remake. And then obviously it spawned sequels, but we won't go down that route because we're doing an episode on sequels coming very, very, very soon with another podcast. So go on then. What were your thoughts on that film? Was that another one that you enjoyed? Bo, is that you a fan of that?
I did see the '86 version. It didn't make my list because again, if I didn't see the earlier version, I just didn't put it on there. So Jeff Goldblum did an amazing job. It was one of those. It was, and I was young, so I was like 12 in '86. So that's one of those. You try to get scary movies as much as you can when you're a kid, and like you said, you just can't. You always get them. And when you get your hands on them, on a VCR tape or whatever, or if it comes on HBO or whatever, you try to watch them. And that was one of the ones that was like taboo to watch because you were only 12 years old. But it was a horror movie. I thought it was like a horror movie, and it was nice. It was a very good movie. He did a great job. So I couldn't imagine going back and watching the black and white version. I couldn't imagine that being a thing.
No, absolutely. So, just out of interest, then, have any of you guys got a film that you're on the fence about? A film that you've seen the original, a film where you've seen the remake and thought they're much of a muchness. I cannot pick between them.
Oh wow.
I could chuck one out there.
I've got one for you.
Go on.
Okay, go on. I've probably got one.
Yep. So, Psycho, 1960 and 1998. I really enjoyed the 1961 version with Anthony Perkins in it. But the 1998 Psycho was good, but I just don't know. I don't know if it was better, So it was one of those ones I kind of put on this list, and it was like with question marks. So what do you guys think about that?
I liked both. I've seen both. And actually, it's a good shout because they are both very, very good. I did like the remake. I think I probably prefer the original, but out of all of out of a lot of remakes, and obviously we've done various research and stuff, it is one that it is hard to pick because sometimes you'll see a remake and you'll go, that's definitely better than the original, or they'll do a remake and go, no, the original is definitely better. I agree with you there, Bo. I think they're both very, very good films.
For me, the interesting one about this, and I'll put my brother's point of view over because I do know his opinion on this one as well. We've had a conversation about it, not very recently, but we have talked about it. Now, Psycho films are fantastic films, but this is one of the unusual ones, and maybe we'll get to in a later episode, where the original actually was not as good and the story wasn't told as well, I don't think, as the later films that came in that sequence of films. So the original Psycho in itself is a pretty good film, but actually 2, 3, and 4, well, certainly 2 and 3 anyway, were better films than the original. So they did the remake, and like I said, I put my brother's point. My brother absolutely hates the remake of that. So he doesn't like Vince Vaughn in it. He likes the original character. He likes Perkins' performance. because he is just such a peculiar fellow as he comes across in that, and it develops more. And the way that people, the town, interact with him and how they view him, he plays off of it, I think, incredibly well, which makes the character much more believable than maybe Vince Vaughn. Although I did quite like the casting. I think it was Anne Hesh who's played the girl in the shower on that one. I think
so,
it was. I forget who played it in the original. But yeah, I'm kind of with you, to be honest, in this. And this is one of those films. I'm quickly pulling up IMDb as we speak. I thought the same as yourself. I quite enjoyed it, actually, to be honest with you. And obviously, R.I.P. to Anne Hesh, who's passed away sadly quite recently in a very unfortunate incident. But well, I'll tell you this: IMDb disagrees with me entirely in that the original film is rated at 8.5, and the remake 4.6. So I think you're very much on your own on that one, Bo. What about yourself, Gaza?
I mean, I've got a couple. I've just put on my list there. So the next one for me, and
is this one that you're unsure on? Yeah.
No. So the one I'm unsure of was Batman. So when you go back to the original Batman,
Adam West.
Which no, not Adam West. No, not that guy. Not when he was it the Kapow and all of that. No, not that one. So I'm trying to think who it was. Was it? I got his name just off the top of my head now.
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. So you go back to the original one, and then the newest Batman actually is sort of a remake of the first one type thing. And I'm sort of on the fence because I really enjoyed. I think it was called. Is it just called The Batman? And I'm sort of on the fence there because I really enjoyed both. You know me, Adam. I'm more of a Marvel than a DC guy, but I enjoyed that type of genre. So I was a little bit on the fence and couldn't make my mind up because I really enjoyed The Batman. But the original was still very good because it spawned Batman Forever and subsequent films after that sort of thing. So yeah, very much on the fence with that one.
Well, here's another thing that links us in with the fly here, dude. Michael Keaton, where's he from?
Probably Pittsburgh, now you've said it.
Pittsburgh, PA, yeah, you know it, dude. So this one, both films are actually rated really, really quite highly on IMDb. 7.5 for the Michael Keaton version, but the later version, which I haven't seen, 7.8. Now, I have to say, I wasn't a fan of that original Batman film, the original one with Keaton in it, but I did enjoy the Batman Returns, maybe because of Michelle Pfeiffer, I think probably more so. But you know I'm same as yourself. I can't get excited about Batman or Superman if I'm really honest. I'm much more.
Superman was the other one, was it? Because there was that Superman. Was it Man of Steel? Was it Man of Steel? Is that what it's called? Was that the remake of the original? The first, obviously, you got Christopher Reeve, the first guy, and then was it Henry Cavill that did? Was it that guy that did Superman? Can't think. But again, that was one. That was a DC one that they basically have just remade the original film. I wasn't a massive fan of the Superman sort of remakes, but yeah, the Batman, I thought the remake was very good.
Well, interesting enough, dude, you're quite right with the guy's name, but the original Superman, Christopher Reeve, 7.4, the remake 7.1. So people would generally agree that original is better. And to be honest, that's how I like my comic book movies. I like them really quite camp. You know what I mean? So this modern day stuff, don't get me wrong, I'm sure I'll get a few hats after this. I can't take to it, dude. I can't take to it. I really enjoy that really sort of camp nonsense. So when I flippantly say the original Batman is Adam West, man, I love that. I love that growing up. That was fantastic, and it was as camp as you like. It was brilliant.
But was it and I'm sure they did. But was it a film? I thought they were the series. Was Adam West the series?
Yeah, it was. So they probably did a feature-length movie, I imagine, at some point.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, no, you grow up and like say the sort of the byplay, the interaction between sort of Batman and Robin back in the day was like you look back now, you just sort of think, oh God, it literally is Campus Christmas, isn't it? You look back and think, it was great, but I'd say there's a couple of films that you think I'm on the fence with, but I mean, you threw us under the bus a little bit. But yeah, the Batman and the Batman.
You know me, I like to do that, dude. So
yeah,
go on, which was the best Batmobile, pair of you?
Best, well, it's got to be. It's got to be the original. Go back to the, was it 60s, 70s one? Isn't it? The original one. Surely that's got to be the best one.
Yeah, I would say
iconic. Yeah.
Is it a Lincoln Futura or something like that? Was it called? I can't remember the make of the car, but it was based on.
I don't know. I just remember you looking at him like, yeah, that is
badass.
cool.
Yeah, absolutely rock. Yeah, when you look at what they've done recently, don't get me wrong, there probably are better vehicles, but that I'm sure is a Lincoln Futura or something like that. Actually, didn't differ hugely from the original car that they did. They changed the way that they seated a little bit, but the actual car itself looked pretty much like that, painted with black with a red bat on the bonnet. It was fantastic. So I'll give you one. I'll give you one then that I'm really, really on the fence of. Gaz, you pretty much nailed it with your last comment there with As Camp as Christmas. Miracle on 54th Street. Man, so the original of that one, and it's actually been remade another time since, which I didn't really enjoy. But the 1947 version and the 1994 version with old Mr. Attenborough in it, I think they're both fantastic films, and I can't really pick a favourite between the two of those.
You see, that surprised me because you love that film.
I do. I love them both.
Yeah, I'm trying to think whether or not I've seen the updated one, the remake. I must have seen the remake. If I'm honest, I don't remember it, so it's hard for me to sort of to comment again, similar to the film earlier. But I mean, the original is just a classic, isn't it? So it would be hard to push and get better than that, I suppose. But what are your thoughts on that? Have you seen either of those films?
I saw the original, and I've never seen the remake. That's one of those ones that just, for whatever reason in my mind, I feel like it's just a iconic movie. People, it's wholesome. Just it's a great movie, the original, and I would have a hard time, I think, watching the remake on it. It's just there's so it's like if somebody was going to try to remake Home Alone or something like that. It's just one of those movies that it is what it is. It's hard to redo that. So I don't know. I don't know if I'd watch it or not.
It is, and I tell you what, it is. It's pretty much another one of those ones, and it goes against everything that I've previously said. It's almost made shot for shot. It's setting gimbals again at Christmas, and Dickie Attenborough plays that character, and he sits there, he takes it on, and I think he plays it really well because he looks the part as well.
Yeah.
One bit I will say for this, where they do change it a little bit, and this is a little bit of the reason why I'm a little bit more on the fence about it. So there's the court case at the very end where they're talking and they're trying to justify how that they can basically, because the popular sway of opinion is they want to get this guy off. And with Dickie Attenborough's version, it's about the wording on the dollar bill, "In God We Trust." And that's it. It's like, if we can put our faith in God, then we can put our faith in Christmas. And if something that is at the heart of our economy, like money, which is debased as it is, and we still have faith written on there, then we can have our faith in Santa Claus. And I think, it gets me every time, gets me on board. I tell you what, I love that film. Original, but then the original is the original. And this is the thing for me. When films are as good as that, I go back to what I said earlier. I don't understand the need to remake that, because that 47 version, you can stick it on at Christmas every single year, and I'm still going to watch it. It's one of those films. It's like It's a Wonderful Life. If it comes on at Christmas, I don't care what I'm doing. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to enjoy that. I watched, I think Matilda was about 3 when I introduced it to It's a Wonderful Life, and if they ever dared try and remake that movie, I would angry up my blood. Something rotten.
I was literally just about to say to you, dude, do you think they ever will make a remake that film? And obviously, you just sort of said, in a way, you hope they don't.
I hope they don't, but then again, I'd hope they never would have made Ghostbusters, and that happened.
Yeah. Let's just forget that. So
yeah,
that should completely be written off.
And that's the biggest argument against film remakes is stuff like that. That original Ghostbusters movie, for me, is literally perfect. It is one of my favorite films of all time, bar none.
Yeah.
I love it. Ghostbusters 2, a little less good, but you know, they want to make some money off the back of the first. We'll let them off. But that original film is phenomenal. The cast is absolutely incredible. You're never going to top that cast again. You know what I mean? Those guys, and they were passionate about it. They were all bought into the role. And now, yes, the special effects. Are the special effects any better in the second? I don't know. I guess they are, but I like the fact that the story is told from a perspective we're doing the best with what we've got now. One of my favorite horror movies of all time is a film which has been remade, and this angers up my blood that this one was remade. The Evil Dead.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
It's made on a budget of like $50,000. You know, so Sam Raimi, who did some Spider-Man movies as well, and again he kept them nice and camp, and cast Bruce Campbell in it, God bless him. But that original film, I've got it on. I've got 4 copies of that film because I love it so much, and slightly different cuts on everything. And one of them is obviously the Blu-ray version of it. And the point where you see the moon that's quiet, you literally, because it's been put straight onto Blu-ray, you can see the box around it where it's literally just been pasted there, you know, in terms of the corner. Let's see, Sam Raimi's probably just stuck a transfer down over his camera while he's filming. It is that basic. But it's made with love and it's made with passion. It's a guy trying to tell a story with what he's got at that time. If they ever try to remake Clerks, that's another movie that would make me very angry. But Evil Dead should never, ever have been remade. It stands alone, you know what I mean? It's a film. It's one of the few films that's ever spooked me, to be fair. I was so drunk at the time. Me and John Boy were watching it. My mum and dad had gone away on holiday. And we were watching it, and I spooked myself. I saw my own reflection in the window and got scared because we'd been on the old Skull Super all day. And so probably less said about that evening the better, because I don't remember a great deal about it other than that. But John reminds me of that from time to time. But that film is one of those films that are an argument that doesn't make any difference if the special effects can be remade and done better. There's no need to do it because they're enjoyable for what they are.
Right.
The story they tell,
Yeah.
the story. Films should, it's like films that are based on books. Most people will tell you the book's better. It's because the story. And that, for me, is why I don't think films should be remade. What are you guys thought on me, my little soliloquy I've just been on there?
No, that's good. There's I'll tell you a movie that they shouldn't have made, that they shouldn't have remade, and that's Poltergeist.
Yes.
Poltergeist to me was that the original Poltergeist in 1982 was the scariest movie I could ever think of watching. They redid it in 2015, and it was like the baby of Poltergeist. It just wasn't. They should have never. And you can look it up. I'm going to tell you right now, if anybody voted on the new Poltergeist being better than the original, then they've had too many martinis, because there's no way.
I'm with you there, Bo. I've seen both films, and the original was spooky as hell, like really spooky. And actually, those type of, I suppose, psychological, spooky, creepy films actually got me much more than your slasher type films. So you put against the Poltergeist, like, oh my god, like it's probably rated 15, whereas something like, I don't know, what Nightmare on Elm Street or something like that, which is probably rated 18. And actually the Poltergeist film creeps you out a lot more than or certainly for me, creeps you out a lot more. And it's a bit like they were okay, but not a patch on Poltergeist in its day, but a bit like the Paranormal Activity, the original one of them, where things happen in houses and you're like, shit, like what the fuck was that type thing? Do you know what I mean? As opposed to some guy with a great big machete or claws on his hand hacking people up. It's that type of creepy shit you up film. But no, I agree with Ebo 100%, mate. Yeah, that the Poltergeist was really great. It's just she's there like that, and she on the TV or whatever, and you're like, oh no, don't do it. Sort of thing. It's like, no way. It's brilliant.
It is really spooky, and there's a part of you like when it first starts off, and they become aware that there's a spirit in the house. They put the thing on the counter and it moves. It's like, oh wow, and it's spooky. And then there's no danger here. they'll even put the child there in like the American football helmet on it, and it gets scooched along, and you think, oh, you don't want to be playing around with stuff like that. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So that one, right, is rated 7.3, the original, on IMDb. We're going higher or lower then? You're convinced it's going to be lower?
Lower.
Oh,
Yeah.
it has to be
Lower by a
lower.
lot.
Like a lot lower. Like a
You-
lot
Yeah.
lower.
You're spot on, 4.9. I think that's
Yeah.
that's a true reflection. So why was that film remade then? Like you say, The Poltergeist is all those films. The first time around, it's literally perfect. You know what I mean? It's perfect. Well, how can you fault it? You know, it spawned a couple of sequels, and I think the second or third one of those was also pretty good when they got the vicar guy turning up as well. He was
Right.
really thin vicar guy
Right.
with a hat. He was creepy as
Yeah.
all hell. And his God,
I say, it's the same thing about someone who can't sing and goes on a singing competition, right? Well, they already know they can't sing, but right, it would be like you. But they don't have any friends because their real friend would tell them, yeah, this is not a good idea. Don't do that. Well, obviously, the director doesn't have any friends because someone should have told him, don't do this. There's no way. You shouldn't be doing it. So, whoever the director was on the second one, it doesn't have any friends.
nah.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. It's terrible. Should never been done.
But that's an interesting parody that you've just made there. So in terms of films, one thing that gets done a lot or redone a lot, cover versions of songs. When the original is say fantastic, some guy comes along and thinks, I think I can sing that better. Let me release my version as well, see if I can make a little bit of money out of that.
But they never are though, are they? Because films and songs, the original is made, and that's how you remember it. So, like somebody remakes a song and re-releases a song, and you hear the remake, and it's like, yeah, it's okay, but it doesn't sound like the original. So the original's way better because that's your first experience of it. So I think if you've got a first experience of something in your mind, that's what it should always sound like or always look like.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
If you heard the original version, like there's some songs that I did not hear the original first. Let's say "Shameless" by Garth Brooks, right? It's a Billy Joel song. I never heard Billy Joel do it.
Right.
Garth Brooks did. I thought Garth Brooks wrote it until I had to look it up, and I was like, oh, it's a Billy Joel song. And then afterwards, I think the Billy Joel version's good, but Garth Brooks put it on the map.
Yeah.
Tennessee Whiskey by Chris Stapleton. It was done, in the 60s or 70s. But the thing is you never heard that version of it. And then Chris Stapleton does it and does this bluesy stuff to it, and everybody's going nuts about it. And then you could go come to find out that George Jones did it, years ago. So it's actually redone a few times.
That's it, and that's the thing, isn't it? And it's almost going back to, like, I forget which film it was I mentioned. Oh, The Fly, wasn't it? Your interaction with that first version. So is that the reason why films are remade? Because people who forget how good the original Cape Fear was, well, that film's of our generation, that remake was, and we're all sitting there telling you what a good film it was. But that was our first interaction with it, seeing that remade film. So is that what it's about? Is that the real purpose? Are we gonna have to take this back out of Room 101, guys?
I don't know. Maybe. I think, and I'll hold my hands up. You see, I watched the remake of Cape Fear before I watched the original. So because that was a film that was released in my generation, so you watch it and then you think, oh, it's a remake. You think, oh, okay, I'll give the remake a go, and you watch the remake and you're like, yeah, he's just not quite as creepy as De Niro. They just haven't quite got and I think because Cape Fear, maybe that was my first impression of that film, and that was the one that I saw. So is it a case of if you see the original first, you think that's the better one? If you see the remake first, you think that's the better one? I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. So the films like we grew up watching, things like you mentioned it a couple of weeks back where we had Jason MP on. I Spit on Your Grave. Very, very uncomfortable film to watch, the original.
Really uncomfortable films. Yeah.
The remake itself is piss poor, if you'll pardon my French. It's a really, really poor imitation of that. I can't imagine that anybody would watch that then think, oh, it's a remake. I'll go watch the original, and think that the remake was any better, because it's not. It's a terrible film. The first film was very exploitational, like Jason himself said, it was supposed to be called The Day of the Woman, which is supposed to be empowering. But actually, no, they even took that away from her and made it something that people, you're gonna have to watch this. It's called I Spit on Your Grave. That's how gnarly this is. And this is the thing, like I say, it's a horror movie. So Poltergeist and Ghostbusters, two of those films that should never ever have been remade. We could all agree on that one. You have been given the go ahead to remake those movies. How do you go about doing it to a level that you, who loves the originals, would think that's acceptable?
Oh, dude, what a question that is. Well, where do you even start? I suppose you've got to look at maybe some of your script writing. So you've got to look at actually the storytelling element of the film, and then you've got to match that with the cast. I think you're going to have to go, not necessarily stellar cast, but I think you'd have to go, like your method actors, your people that really delve into the characters, and you do and all of that. God, what a tough question that is, dude. I don't know. I think it's. I think it would have to start with the writer. It would have to start with the script. It's got to start with the story itself. And are you going to go literally like for like for the original, or are the bits of the original that you didn't like, and therefore you think, oh, actually, I was expecting this, but this happened. So maybe when you do the remake, you do what you expect. I don't know. Hard question, kid. Hard question.
Yeah, but I'll throw my 2 cents in, and I'll give an example. So the 1960 version of Ocean's 11, you had Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., all stars, all studs, right? But when they remade it, they had to match person for person with George Clooney, Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, Bernie Mac. They had to bring in stars like that were willing, not just one, but all of them, because you weren't gonna make Ocean's 11 the remake with me and you as the stars. It's just not gonna. You had to bring in everybody, that is good at their own craft to be able to match up to Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin.
Yeah, that was on my list. So that was one of the ones that, because my daughter's, my youngest daughter in particular, loves the Ocean's 11 and 12 and 13. I'm not a huge fan of the female version, but the Ocean's 11 it's a phenomenal film, and as you said, Bo, you look at Clooney, Pitt, Damon, Julie Roberts, and then obviously then you go Andy Garcia, and you're thinking, Christ, and then obviously they did Ocean's 12, and was that De Niro? Was it De Niro? Was he in that one, or I might have been Andy Garcia again? Was it Andy Garcia in 12?
So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
And
do you love
go on, sorry.
Do you love the original, or do you prefer the remake better to that one? Just out of interest.
I love the remake. I think it's one of my favorite. It doesn't rate in my top 5 and stuff, because we've done a podcast on that, but it rates really highly on my list. If it's on, I will watch it. I love the film. I think the interplay. I think Brad Pitt is phenomenal as Rusty. I think he's brilliant. Clooney is Clooney, but Brad Pitt is fantastic. Don Cheadle in the worst English accent you could possibly ever wish to hear, but is quite funny. Bernie Mac, Elliot Gould. I mean, Elliot Gould in that film is phenomenal as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I actually wondered about that, whether or not that English accent to you guys was good or not. I was like,
no, it's horrendous.
It sounds like Egypt. Okay.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
It's horrendous, but that was on my list. But again, you see, interesting. Go back to what we said about 5 minutes ago. I watched Ocean's 11 with Clooney and Pitt and Damon and Roberts, and then went and watched the original because I knew it was a remake. I was like, I really like this version. I'll go and watch the original one. And I watched the original one, and as you said, Bo, again, just a super stellar cast in the original. But it just didn't quite hit the mark for me compared to the remake. Now, if I'd have seen the original first and then the remake, who knows? I don't know. But yeah, that was on my list. I love that film.
I tell you what I didn't like about the original of Ocean's 11, and it goes back to that cast, I'm afraid. And as fantastic as they are, and as much as I love the music of Dean Martin, I can happily listen to Dean Martin all day. I love Dean Martin's voice. I like Frank Sinatra too. I love Sammy Davis Jr. But when they're acting in that, there's almost like a self-satisfaction of, look at us, we're doing this film. We are the boys. We are the mafia that we've always portrayed ourselves a little to be. You know, all Blue Eyes himself. You had those very questionable links with like the Cosa Nostra, and I think they were too look at us in that role. Whereas in the remake, sorry, I think it was so well cast with such good actors that I do. It's one of those ones where I have to say I prefer it, and the good people tend to back us on that one as well. So the 1960 version was 6.5 on IMDb, whereas the remake 7.7. So that's a little bit of a landslide. Not as much as Poltergeist mine, where I think we can all agree that it was trash, the remake version of it. So go on then. I'm going to double down again now, Cass. I'm doubling down on this one. Well, are you a big fan of Shawshank? Shawshank Redemption?
Yes.
Yeah. Great movie. So I've just made myself a little bit of money. I've just put all my life savings on the first score of the Super Bowl is going to be a safety. Okay, yeah. I've put all my money on that. It comes in, and I'm financing a remake of Shawshank Redemption. I'm trusting you guys. I'm trusting you guys to cast that film. How are we going to make that film better? Because we pretty much universally agree, guys, it's literally one of the best films ever made. And he's on mute again.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I was about to say it's my all-time favorite film, and it literally ranks number one as my favorite film. And if it's on, I have to watch it. Doesn't matter whether it's 2 a.m. Doesn't matter whether it's 3:30 in the afternoon. Whatever time it's on, I have to watch it just because there's bits of that film that I must have seen that film. I can't tell you how many times. But there's just little bits that every single time you watch it, you just pick up. It's just a little bit of byplay when they're in the prison, or just a look or a comment, or just. And I haven't read. I think purposefully I haven't read the book, so I haven't read the Stephen King book, just because, in a way, I don't want the film to be ruined, because the film is just a phenomenal. Do you know? I'd cast Tim Robbins, Morgan Freeman. I'd cast. I wouldn't touch it. I actually wouldn't touch it. You can't. You can't. And as you said, Ad, if there was a film that was remade, and if they ever did make a remake of that, I'd be apoplectic. I'd go and burn the cinema down or whatever.
Yeah.
No, I'm not having it.
Yeah. You put that on record, guys.
I know. So I know. Sorry, man. Scrub it. So, but what's your thoughts on Shawshank then? Are you as big a lover of the film as I am, or?
Yeah, not my favorite movie ever. My favorite movie ever is Tombstone. I just love it. When it comes on, I gotta watch it every time. And half of my vocabulary comes from Tombstone. So But Shawshank Redemption. I love the movie. The story was great. The acting was great. Everything in it was just very, very good. And I don't see, first off, I don't see you winning your safety bet, number one. And so we don't have to remake it, which is good, because I don't think it can be done. I don't know if you can get people to match the acting that was done in the first movie. I don't know if you can do that. And even if you do, I just don't think that it's going to be anywhere close to the original.
I just don't think there's any part of that film that is weak. Sometimes you see really good films in that was a bit, that 5 minutes was a bit slow, or that was why did they put that scene in? Or when the tar in the ceiling and he said, "Do you love your wife?" and he just goes and he almost throws him through, and he's like, because if you do, you're allowed at one time, and all of a sudden the guard's a bit like, what did you say, sort of thing, and then you just see them there, and they're sitting on the top, and they're having the beer, and it's just it's a phenomenal film.
Yes.
And I wouldn't touch it. And if I was a director, and as you said, you win a truckload of money, I think there's lots of other films out there that you'd touch before you try to remake Shawshank, because you ain't going to better it. So it's only ever going to be a doozy. It's just going to be horrendous.
Yeah, and like you say, it's rated 9.3 on IMDb, so that's going to take some beating when we look at the other films that we've talked about today. Tombstone, just for the record, 7.8 both, so it's way up there. It's way up there. It's the sort of thing, if you're using IMDb as a judge as to whether you're going to watch a film, I would say that is an absolute must watch as well. So for me, if when I win that safety bet, I stick my life savings in it, yeah. So we remake Ghostbusters, right? With the three of us as Venkman and Stantz and Spengler, and then we could probably get Andy, who turns up every now and then as Zedmore, and then the pièce de résistance of making that, to make it a little bit more enjoyable for everybody else, we cast Hasbulla as the Slimer. That's going to improve that film, and that's going to make that entertaining.
Dude, if you've got like a man crush on him or something, because like barely a podcast goes by without you mentioning him.
I love that little bastard. I do. I just find him very entertaining. But yeah, I just think he needs to make a Hollywood appearance in something that, for me, I think that would be very, very entertaining.
The thing is, though, dude,
just picture him in the rain and the mud at the end when he's escaped from Shawshank Prison, little Hasbulla.
Like this. Well, to be fair, he wouldn't have to crawl through the pipes, would he? Just fucking walk through it, wouldn't he? But no, I look, dude. I think you Ghostbusters remake and all that. Now I'm not having that. It's been there, done that. Been terrible. One film I was going to mention, and I sort of I tried to, only because I like the remake, and I tried to watch the original, but then so the film did The Departed, and I didn't realise it was a remake, and it's only just doing the sort of, so The Departed is just a phenomenal film, and again the cast, DiCaprio, Damon, Nicholson, it's just like almost a stellar cast, and it's based on is it like a sort of Hong Kong Japanese type film sort of thing, but sort of late 70s maybe. And I thought, again, I've seen The Departed, and it is a fantastic film, and I haven't seen the original, so I'm sort of, I'm a bit with you, Bo. I don't want to say it's better than the original because I haven't seen it, but it was curious because I actually didn't realise it was a remake. Yeah, and you're watching, since you're doing your sort of research, shit, didn't realise that was a remake sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then you start looking at it and thinking, oh, okay, it's a remake of this film. I think it's called Internal Affairs, I think, from looking at it. Yeah, I don't know whether either of you have seen the original. I haven't, but I've obviously seen The Departed, which is a great film.
I'll tell you what, though, it's interesting that, because we very much like sort of westernized versions of films. We like Western films. We don't really stray much outside of that. So when I saw the film The Ring, I thought it was fantastic, and I thought it was great. It really spooked me. But I realized it was based on a Japanese film called Ringu. And I went and watched that. And obviously it loses a little bit because of subtitles, etc.
Yeah.
But the original is far, far superior. Far superior. If you watch The Ring and then go back and watch Ringu, I guarantee you will prefer the original. And that's one of those ones. So the one I interacted with first was The Ring. Then Ringu came afterwards, and it's a better film.
You prefer that one? But you see, I haven't seen.
It's not even close.
I've seen The Ring, and then The Ring 2, or whatever it was. But I've seen The Ring, but I haven't seen Ringu. And it obviously, when you do your research and stuff pre-podcast, and it comes up with remakes versus the original, and that was on the list, and I thought, oh, I've seen that, but I haven't seen the original, so I can't comment on it. The Ring again goes back to what we were saying a little bit about Poltergeist. It's sort of uneasy. Do you know what I mean? It's an uneasy film. It's not a slasher horror. It's just a bit sort of, tingly down there, but you're a bit like not so sure. It's that type of spooky film.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are the ones that get me more, anyways. Gore and all that never gets me. I mean, it's whatever, because it's just, being a police officer or whatever. None of that's good. But when it gets you thinking, and it gets your mind into another spot, you could really freak yourself out on some of those. Like Seven, with Brad Pitt. Seven. I mean, that's a psychological thriller. I mean, at the end of that movie, I was like, oh my God, what's going on? I mean, it was, those are the kind that really kind of get me spooked, I would have to say.
Yeah.
Top five.
Definitely.
Top five. That is in my top 5 all-time favorite films. It's like, what's in the box? What's in the box? And it's like, John Doe has the upper hand. John Doe has the upper hand. It's like, what's in the box? And it's just like, oh man, right at the end, because you don't. That film is, it's fantastic, and as much as, again, you look at Morgan Freeman, Brad Pitt, and you think, yeah, they've got him. For him to walk into police station and say, come on, hey, it was me, and everyone's like, get on the floor, get on, and they only actually really caught him because he walked in and said, yeah, it's me. But you then watch the film and you think the reason he's done that is because he then wants the final sin to be Brad Pitt's, and then it just wraps it up beautifully, absolutely beautifully. But yeah, Barry, that's a shout, because that's in my top 5 of all time, that film, and I love that film.
Indeed. Although it does sound, the way you say what's in the box, it could be just like Deal or No Deal, the movie.
Noel Edmonds.
Noel Edmonds. Oh, I tell you, he needs to be in the guy Ghostbusters remake. So we're coming up to around about the hour mark. Actually, we slightly surpassed it, but we said we wanted to do Super Bowl predictions. I've given you one. First score is going to be a safety for, probably, I'm going to say, I'll double down and say it's going to be for the Eagles. How do you see it finishing then? How do you see it finishing? It's kicking off very, very shortly. Go on. Who wants first dibs on saying how they think it's going to go?
Go on, baby. You go first. I'll reserve
All right.
from going.
So I'm making this prediction purely out of spite, because the Eagles are in the same conference as the Cowboys. So purely out of spite, I think it's KC. It's going to put up a lot of points today. The Eagles are going to put up a lot of points, but I'm actually 32-28 KC. 32-28 KC.
A lot of people think this is going to be high scoring on both sides. Basically, I think because the Eagles are actually, I know it's going to pain you to say it though, but have actually been really decent, and a really decent all-around side as well. Not really faulted anywhere. I
just think, I'm with you, Ad. I think as really, really good as the Eagles are, and they are genuinely very good, because obviously they're in the Super Bowl, so they're not shit. I think Mahomes in this game, he's the one with the X factor. He's the one that is the game changer. I think the Eagles have the better team. I think the Eagles have the better all-around game. Whether they've got the best offense, I'm not sure. Is their offense better than the Chiefs? Maybe, but they haven't got Patrick Mahomes. And even if Kansas City go into the fourth quarter and they're 10 points down going into the fourth quarter, you always expect him to do something, and that's. I think you're right, Bill. I think it will be quite high scoring. I think it will come down to the fourth quarter, and I think it'll come down to, bold prediction. 2-minute warning, fourth quarter, Eagles fumble, Casey recover it, and go down the field and score a winning touchdown.
Oh, interesting. What, Mahomes to Smith-Schuster?
Mahomes to take your pick.
Okay. So I'll give you mine. Well, I've already given you a little bit of my forecast here. Okay. So I do think Eagles will score first with a safety. Just fancy that as a little bit of a gamble, 50-1, folks, if you do fancy joining me on that one. I haven't put my life savings on it, just to be very, very clear, Kim, when you watch this back. But I just think the Eagles, this is going to be the one game they actually misfire on a little bit. and I see Kansas City doing it 27-12. Just got a funny feeling, yeah, it's going to be a little bit more one-sided in KC's way because I don't see Mahomes missing much. I don't. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. I think it's going to be close in terms of possession and in terms of moving forward. I just think in that final red zone area, just got a funny feeling this is going to be the one game that the Eagles really, really falter on this year when they've been so strong throughout the whole season. And Mahomes, like you say, he's the man for the big occasions, isn't he? And I hope, because I love Juju Smith-Schuster. I wish we'd kept him in Pittsburgh. I really do. But I've just got to, I'd like to see him with a ring on his finger.
And I would actually say that, and we can't bet in Texas. There's no betting in Texas yet. So I've been on some, websites to try to place bets, and you just can't because it, knows your location, and you're in the world. You kind of know how that works. But if there was, and there was a side bet, I would put probably $100 that the Eagles quarterback, the name is Hurts, Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. Yeah.
That he actually gets hurt in the game and has to come out.
Mm.
I think he gets.
Really?
I think he gets hurt where he can't play sometime in the game, and it probably before halftime. I think they put him on his head, and that shoulder I don't think is 100%, and that shoulder he has to come out because it's his throwing shoulder. I think that happens. I'd put $100 on that would happen, and I don't know. You could tell me the odds. 100 to 1. I don't know, but
probably.
But I would take it. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
You see, I do think the Eagles will fire. I do think just because. I don't think the Kansas City defense, don't get me wrong, they're a decent defense. I think there's been times when they rely on their offensive side, i.e. Patrick Mahomes, to sort of dig them out of trouble and do something special and all of that. Don't get me wrong, they're a decent defense, and you don't get to a Super Bowl and there's that age-old adage that was it offenses win championships, defenses win Super Bowls, or whatever it is. It's that sort of thing. So they're no mugs. I just think that the Eagles have got an all-around offense that can probably cause Kansas City a little bit of trouble. I just can't get away from that Patrick Mahomes X factor in the fourth quarter bit. And as I say, I do think it will go down to the 2-minute warning. I think there'll be a fumble recovery from KC, and it'll either be a Mahomes drive to, it'll be a drive to, I don't know, first and goal or something like that, and he'll probably throw a sort of 7, 8, 9 yard sort of pick six sort of thing, and Kansas City will win it.
Interesting. So we're all going KC.
Yeah, I'm going KC. Yeah.
There you go. Interesting. There we go. Not much controversy there, but we'll find out if we're right by the time this episode drops. The Eagles might have won their second Super Bowl. Who knows? So, before we wrap it up, let's find out what beers that we picked for this episode. Gaza?
Okay, so I went with a long-standing favourite of mine, which is Le Chouffe. Smiles because he knows I love that beer. And then when that went, I actually went for a beer. I haven't had this for ages, actually. So I went for Beavertown Gamma Ray. I haven't had that for ages. It's lovely, actually. Yeah, very nice.
Bo, well, let's find out what you've been drinking.
Well, I'm actually down 19 pounds since January 1st. I'm trying to get ready for down 19 pounds. And I've been doing it by drinking whiskey.
Respect. That's a diet.
So today I had an old fashioned. I call it a bow fashion because I use sweet and low instead of sugar, and it's amazing. So it's orange bitters, a little bit of bullet bourbon, and I use the sweet and low packet in there. So maybe if you make it over this year, you can try one or 10.
Oh, I will.
Sure we will.
Yeah, I will. Don't you worry. I'm hoping, like say, them rules change in April, and I will be booking my flight the day after. I can absolutely promise you that. So for myself, on a day when we've been talking about remakes, I've been drinking a beer where they have remade a classic. So Instead of the Titanic plum porter, which I love so much, it's the Titanic cherry porter.
I did see that, dude. I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it's pretty good. I had it on tap in the railway, like sometime, I'd say tail end of last year, maybe summertime last year. Didn't really much care for it, but the bottle version of it is fantastic. I actually think it's a slightly better beer than the plum porter. It's really good.
Wow, that's high praise indeed, because you are a plum porter fan, dude.
I am, but it's been ruined, dude. Since we got the Bard All Stage, we had the Grand Reserve on tap, which is like the stronger version. So it's normally 4.9, it's 6.5 version with port in it. So smooth. And on tap, that is a phenomenal beer. So yeah, that's been, but the plum porter's been ruined for me a little bit since then, because it's like, I have to go back to drinking the regular now because this one's so much better.
Yeah.
So anyway, that brings us up to the end of the episode. Have we really decided on anything other than adding a Hasbulla into a film makes it better? Who wants to leave us with their final thoughts first?
Well, I'll go, and then I'll leave the sort of the end for Bo. I've really enjoyed this. I mean, it's great catching up with Bo. Obviously, fortunate enough to meet sort of in person, sort of thing, when he's over. So always love catching up with Bo. It's great just to chat. And I'm going to leave you with Hasbulla should be nowhere near any films. And I'm just going to leave that there. So yeah, really enjoyed this episode, and look forward to next time.
Yeah. So, Bo, it's nearly 12 months since you were over here and we recorded Drunk Ramblings Part 3 in my kitchen. That's mad, isn't it? That seems like, I don't know, does it seem like a lifetime ago or does it seem like a year ago? I don't know.
It's actually, yeah, I thought about that. We're coming up on a year right now. And yeah, I listen back to that every now and again and go, oh, Lord. Like, how many people actually can make it through that episode?
I know, yeah, I'll be interested to know.
Oh man. So yeah, I really appreciate it when you guys have me on and talking about other things other than you and I being cousins and everything else. Even though to me that's one of the most exciting things that's ever happened to me. To find out that I have a real cousin overseas. So doing my research on these movies and all that, it was leading up to this was actually just as good as doing an episode, because I get to do a little research and see what you guys think about it. So I really appreciate it. And anytime you need someone to fill in, just give me a shout, and I'd be more than happy to. So I appreciate everything. Thanks.
Oh no, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. And actually, to be fair, like you just said there, that's a little bit of the plot of a movie in itself, isn't it? Really, how you ended up in my kitchen last February. That makes it sound very creepy, actually. But no, but it is kind of the plot of the movie itself, and it's one that hopefully, when I've finished this book and I'm set aside some time again this week on Thursday, I have set aside a full day of writing to that, so I can get back into it. I've been a little bit distracted recently with things and job changes and what have you. But yeah, I want to really, really knuckle down to get that one finished.
I can't imagine writing a book, because you asked me to write the foreword and I'm 3 lines in. And I look at it all the time, but I want to make it perfect, like for me, right?
Yeah.
So, because there's so much I want to say, but I don't want to spoil the book. I want to make it right. So, I couldn't imagine actually writing the book. It would, actually, it might even be a little bit easier, because you could say what you want, about it. And I'm trying to get to a point without spoiling anything or whatever. So yeah, I'm 3 lines in, and cheers to the 4th line next week, maybe.
Yeah. Well, this is it. I'm 3 chapters in, and I'm starting chapter 4 sat down. So, if you can keep going as a line per chapter, I think we should be good. And this is the great thing about this podcast when we do it, in terms of, so we had Joyce on from the Scottish Alchemist. We've had Vic Ferrari on. These guys are published authors. So we've got that untapped wealth. I know I could just go to somebody and I can ask a question. And interestingly enough, when we come to publish this book, they're going to be using it and doing the same way that Vic Ferrari does his book. So there you go. It's absolutely beneficial to us to have these people on. And it's wonderful, that we get to make these connections around the world. It's fantastic. And one of those, like I say, probably the best connection I've ever made is bringing, is your good self, that and it still blows my mind that you came all the way over here last February and we did the DNA test afterwards just to make sure I hadn't got it wrong. Because Gaz will tell you, my track record, it ain't great on getting things right. Just wait to see the Super Bowl predictions. So that's
funny.
Yeah, it's true though, unfortunately. So yeah, we're all done for this episode. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for keeping us in the top 10%. Lord knows how that's happened. The top 10% globally as well is absolutely mind-blowing. And yeah, thank you for listening to this episode and any other episodes that you've listened to. So that's wonderful for us. And we'll say thank you. And we'll catch you next week when we'll be talking about something entirely different again.